Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. We're doing news again today because there's another big news drop in the gaming space.
Big news.
Bungie makes Destiny. They were the original creators of Halo, which is now owned by Microsoft. Microsoft, as you know, recently bought Activision Blizzard. What is Sony going to do? Oh, no. Buy Bungie, but not Halo. So we're going to break down a little bit what this means for Sony, what it means for the gaming industry at large, this weird interconnected web of gaming studios, how they work together, and if other big tech giants should look for M&A targets in gaming. Yeah.
Wink, wink. And then we're going to talk about our startup of the day. It's called Metafy, and they allow pro gamers to teach newbies one-on-one for an hourly rate. It's very similar to a portfolio company that we'll talk about as well called Blayze that does something similar for athletic training. So it's never been a better time to be a creator. And we talk about the entire creator economy and basically this new Medici effect we're seeing where people can work from home, make a podcast, be a creator, be on Twitch, and make tons of money or enough to not go to work.
It is a great world. And then finally, we wrap with Shopify CEO Tobi Lutke joining Coinbase's board as Coinbase continues to basically staff up for, I don't know, world domination.
And there are so many interviews coming this week. It's going to be a blockbuster week for This Week in Startups. It's going to be a great show today.
Stick with us.
Stick with us. Yes.
This Week in Startups is brought to you by Boast. If you're a startup developing new software or R&D, you may be owed up to $250,000 in cashback from the government. Boast helps you get that money quickly and easily. And the first 50 customers will get 10% off their first year by mentioning promo code TWIST at boast.ai/twist. OpenPhone. As a startup founder, a lot of mistakes are easy to roll back, but using your personal cell phone number as your company number isn't one of them. OpenPhone makes it easy to get business phone numbers for you and your team right on top of your existing devices. Visit openphone.co/twist to get 20% off your first 6 months. And RealGoodFoods is modernizing frozen foods and has become one of the fastest growing brands in the US. Everything RealGoodFoods makes is low in carbs, high in protein, and made from real food ingredients. Go to realgoodfoods.com and use code TWIST for 15% off.
All right, everybody, let's get to the news. There is a lot of it. More news in the world of gaming. This was actually breaking during the Monday show, and we just could not get to it for obvious reasons.
So much news.
But in video game acquisition tit for tat, Sony announced yesterday that it's going to acquire video game developer Bungie for $3.6 billion. Bungie, of course, creators of the popular first-person shooter Destiny, the original makers of Halo. But I am sorry to say, because Halo is my game, I actually got very excited about this and was like, good job. But I had forgotten that Halo is actually with Microsoft, which we'll get to later. They don't get Halo, but they do get Destiny. How do we feel about this as a counter to Microsoft's Activision Blizzard purchase?
Yeah, I mean, I am not a console gamer. I'm a desktop gamer, and I play real-time strategy like StarCraft and Age of Empires, old school. I only play games that are 10, 20 years old, and I only play them once in a while. But
Halo, for me, yeah, same.
Yeah, I think, kind of similar here. So this does seem to be in the best interest of consumers, which is to say, I love the full stack of you buy this, piece of hardware, you buy a subscription, and they just keep adding stuff to it. And so I think if this means when you buy your console and you get your Netflix style, Amazon Prime style subscription, you get more content, great. I mean, it does make you wonder if these are going to be platform exclusives going forward, or if Microsoft and Sony will take the approach that Microsoft had, which is like, we'll make Office for Mac, we'll make it for PC, we'll make it for Android. And, Steve Ballmer tried to stop, or I guess he held back Office for iOS and Office for Android so that they could try to do their own operating system. And Satya Nadella, I guess coming on the show soon. Definitely. He released Office on Android and iOS, and I believe Microsoft Office is one of the top apps, or some of the top apps in productivity. So I hope that they make these cross-platform, and they keep making it for PC and, for the other person's platform. But it seems like it's in the best interest of consumers.
So Microsoft did say, I think it is especially this exclusive thing. And my feeling on this is that while I don't think the FTC would necessarily put a stop to these acquisitions, I think they would have some questions. And so Microsoft has already come out and Bungie has already come out saying, we're not going to make the Activision Blizzard games, Microsoft said, exclusive. Bungie said they will not be making Destiny platform exclusive. So I think that is great, but there is going to most likely be some value add that you get for subscribing to, Microsoft Game Pass and whatever the Xbox thing is called now, I think, or PlayStation. Is it just still PlayStation Live? Like, I would imagine they're going to use this to leverage some benefit, but it's interesting as a counter. My brother, who is the actual gamer in the family, I'm like still a relatively casual Halo and Tetris kind of gamer, said, though, that he thought if Sony really wanted to kill Xbox, they should have bought EA.
Yeah.
That while Destiny is a big deal, it's no Call of Duty, and it might not have gotten them all the way to unstoppable.
And Electronic Arts is still independent.
Yep.
And they're too big to be bought. I think
Sony has the cash. We did the back of the envelope math over text yesterday. Sony has the cash to do it. That one, I do wonder, though, if it might not be too big to chew off or like big enough that they were worried about, some Snoopy DOJ.
Well, actually, it's $36 billion is the market cap today. It's down 2% today. It looks like the stock price has not changed in 5 years. It's basically traded in a range of $80 to $140. So it's basically trading at the top end of its range. Hasn't changed much.
I think they're a target.
Yeah, it feels like a target to me.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if like Google or Facebook or Amazon or Netflix bought Electronic Arts, how that would shake things up. Amazon's got a ton of money. Netflix has a ton of money. Netflix could absorb it and then get into the gaming business. And when you buy Netflix, you get all the EA stuff. Would that be a good move?
I wonder why Apple and Netflix have stayed away from games to the extent that they have, particularly when Apple's making this M1 chip that could be running games. Like, I don't really know why they have not embraced this industry at all. And
probably because they want to stay neutral and have an app store and just take a 30% of everything.
Right, exactly. And so then so they've got that economic reason, although they are now making their own content, right, with Apple TV.
Yeah,
so it seems like they're maybe inching closer and like take advantage of this hardware.
They're dipping their toe, right? Apple TV.
Mm-hmm.
What do we call Apple TV? Because I have Apple TVs, the hardware device, and then I've watched shows on Apple TV like Ted Lasso.
I think it's just Plus, right? Apple TV Plus is the
So
name of the service
confusing.
or something? I don't freaking know.
Yeah.
Not good at naming. But, and then in terms of Netflix, like they've sort of maybe dabbled here and there in gaming, but never really gone there. And maybe it was bandwidth constraints initially, right? Initially, it was probably just like, we don't want that streaming burden. We already pay enough.
Yeah.
But I would think now it wouldn't be such a big deal. I don't really know. But Netflix has just not seemed interested in that market. And I think it's interesting. Honestly, I think as they start to continue to face the headwinds from HBO and Disney Plus that we've talked about so much, and Apple and other streaming services, maybe it'll start to look more attractive.
Yeah, also Google has this. Is it Stadia?
I thought that died. I think they already
did. They kill that already?
Google is not like
Google keeps trying.
Never.
And then they have
adopt.
something called like Play Game Services, like a subscription service. And I have Apple Games as a subscription service, which when you have kids is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Because when they go to the App Store, it says Apple Arcade, and all of those games have the ads and the mana and the upselling for coins taken out of them. And so I just tell my girls, listen, you can have anything in the arcade.
I think I'm wrong about Google Stadia. It does seem that it still exists. Stadia Pro, according to Forbes, 5 days ago, has a stronger lineup of games in February than PS Plus. It was maybe that article that made PlayStation go buy Bungie.
Yeah, and I think it's Android based, and they have their own. Is it a hardware device now or no?
I think so. There's also a piece about a clear Stadia controller selling for $370 on eBay.
Huh. I know there's a controller. I wonder if they actually have I don't think they have a console.
They don't have a console. It's streaming.
It's just, it's streaming. So their bet is that you can stream the stuff from the cloud and put the CPU on the cloud and bandwidth will be good enough.
Yeah,
Electronic Arts has to be in play, right?
I would think, especially now, right? As of yesterday, I would think if EA is not in play, I don't know why. And And they're doing good content too. They have a friend who is a video producer there who did that show that won a bunch of awards, the one about The Sims. So they're dipping a toe into TV and other content production as well.
Yeah, I mean, they have The Sims, Command and Conquer, Mass Effect, Madden. Yeah, all their sports stuff is really strong. I'm not a big gamer. I just, you have kids, it becomes kind of hard to.
There's only so much time, people.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like when I play one of these like real-time strategy games, like a match can take half an hour, and it's like, unless everybody's asleep in the house and I'm up, I can't do it, right? No. It just doesn't feel
talk about,
like...
I mean, you think you can lose time quickly on TikTok? Try Halo. Like, you sit down,
you could have a 12-hour session. Yeah.
And then boom, it's 2 hours later and you're like, oh no children have eaten.
If you're a startup developing new software or investing in R&D, you may be owed up to $250,000, $250,000 in cash back from the government. But the R&D tax credit program is very complicated. That's why most people don't take advantage of it. It requires a bunch of technical and financial justifications for the IRS. And that's where Boast can help. Boast is a platform that helps startups get cash back from the government. They integrate with over 60 different software providers, which automates document gathering. This helps Boast deliver the fastest IRS-compliant R&D tax claim in the industry. Companies like Bevy Labs and Dooley have recovered hundreds of thousands of dollars with Boast over the past few years. So what is the cost? Well, Boast only makes money once you've gotten cash back. If you don't get paid, they don't either. And if you do, they'll take a modest percentage, between 10 and 20%, depending on the volume of your return. So the upside is free money from the IRS, and the downside is no risk. So here's your call to action. The deadline to claim is approaching fast. So contact Boast today. The first 50 customer signups will get 10% off their first year filing. Just mention the promo code TWIST.
Anyway, I think EA is in play. I don't know who would buy them. I'm curious about why Netflix has not gone that route at this point with streaming games. But I guess EA, it wouldn't be a good acquisition for them because EA doesn't do a lot of streaming games. They're still console based.
And this is a de minimis acquisition. Sony's worth $140 billion. This is $3.6 billion. It's like 1% of the company, and it's a game changer. Netflix does have like a Stranger Things game. They're kind of dabbling in taking their IP and making little games out of it that don't exist inside the Netflix app, I think. I think they link you to an app store. So, yeah, I mean, I think Netflix is going to wind up they're clearly thinking about IP with the stuff they're building as opposed to licensing IP. So making games is a way to kind of pull people into that. And I saw LucasArts launched like 3 Star Wars games on the same day. So, Disney is really going for it with their gaming stuff. So it's a no-brainer. Get somebody. Yeah.
Let's start. Like we need a like a clock, like a countdown.
Yeah.
Like an acquisition timer for EA at this point. Who's it going to be?
This has got to be a great thing for independent video game studios, because as these get acquired, you got to think the top people at these companies are going to be like, you know what? We made our money. We had stock options, whatever. Let's go start our own little game studio. And so when people see acquisitions and they think that's bad for the industry, what they don't realize is the talented people, when these companies get bought, they get so much money that they then have a life choice. Do I want to work at Microsoft or Sony? Or do I want to go be a pirate again and be a rebel and, start a company? So I think what you'll see is a lot of people who are super talented leave these big flagships and start the next generation of flagships. So it'll actually wind up being a very vibrant ecosystem, just like all the Google folks left to start the next generation of companies. And now we'll see Airbnb and Uber executives leaving to create the next generation of companies, and so on and so on.
That's a great point. I had not thought of it that way at all. I definitely was like, oh, these companies are so big that they're going to push all the little studios out. But you make a great point about just sort of the churn in the industry itself. I mean, granted, that doesn't welcome a ton of newcomers necessarily, but it does at least keep the cycle of competition going.
It makes people rich who then have, whatever, $5, $10, $50 million in their bank account from those sales. And they're like, okay, I don't find meaning being this many steps from the decision maker, right? So if you were at Bungie or you were at Blizzard, Activision, you might be 2 or 3 desks away from, or levels away from, the decision maker.
Yeah.
Then you get bought and now you're like 6 or 7, and you're like a unit within a unit within a unit, and within a giant company. And you're like, okay, well, I've got this money sitting in the bank, and there's 4 or 5 other people who do too. We don't need to make a salary for the next 3 or 4 years. So let's go start our own company. And then you go to investors, and they're like, oh, you've already built your prototype because you funded it yourself. Great, yeah, here's 10 million. Go for it. So
great point.
I think it's going to be great for the industry. Any other notes on this deal?
I mean, I think the only other thing is just sort of fun, which is the fascinating intertwining, like how nepotistic this industry is, and then Bungie itself and what a weird ownership history it's had, especially when you consider kind of all the Halo drama, right? Which is that in 2000, Microsoft got the exclusive rights to Halo, made it an exclusive. It became this huge hit.
Yeah.
Kept on failing to make the movie.
That was so weird. Yeah.
And then Bungie in 2007 splits from Microsoft, becomes its own privately held company called Bungie. And then independent Bungie signed a long-term contract with Activision to publish Destiny.
Yeah.
And
it sounds like the Marvel IP. Keep going.
It totally is. Like, you need a PhD to understand all the different ways that these companies are connected. But I bring that up partly because it's super interesting and it's really dishy. And so there was a really funny tweet about it. But also, it completely validates your point about all these people who know each other, who have worked together in some way for years, who built these games together, and they were at this company and this company, but it was still the same company and whatever, who are going to want to split off and make something new. Great.
Yeah. So I guess we'll be waiting for the announcement that Sony spins out Bungie at some point. That's like the end game. Is like
that's what. Yeah, there's
Blizzard has spun out from Microsoft to be its own independent because they weren't getting anything done internally. Well, and when those things happen, what typically happens is whoever did the acquisition then retires. So somebody at Sony retires, somebody at Microsoft retires. So let's say Satya leaves Microsoft, 10 years from now. Somebody else comes in, they're like, you know what, this gaming thing, these units aren't working. Somebody in the unit lobbies them, hey, can we have our company back? Can we spin it out? And they're like, yeah, sure. This isn't a priority for me. I'm focusing the company on these 3 things, and this is the 5th priority. So sure, you can leave. So that's how these things wind up going, is when the top level person leaves, they didn't anoint this deal. It wasn't their deal. They don't want to be defined by it. And getting it out of the company becomes like a statement in and of itself, right? Like, we're not doing this anymore, which is what happens to when a movie studio flips over. Whoever the previous person running the movie studio or the TV network looks at all the things in production, and they're like, my name's not on these things. And I have a certain number of slots and bullets that I can fire. I'm not going to take the old guard and make them famous for the show. Cancel all that stuff or put it in permanent hiatus. So another studio can't do it and make us look bad, but we're not going to do it because I want to promote my projects.
Right.
That's what they call production hell in Hollywood. I don't know if that happens in startups.
And then the final business point or business question I have is whether these acquisitions actually signal a little bit of weakness in console gaming, because PC gaming has really been on the rise. And, we talked about like the kids are playing Minecraft. I think Fortnite, although it was also on console, I believe brought a lot of kids to PC gaming. And so we polled our live audience on YouTube and asked what console they own. None was 43%. 43% of our audience, at least, owns no console. 30% of them own PlayStation. 12% own Xbox. 12% own Nintendo Switch. It was 155 votes.
Interesting.
But it does that one tiny data point did make me wonder if Sony and Microsoft are trying to shore up their libraries to make their consoles more appealing.
Yeah, and you have so many other entertainment options and gaming options. I bet you if we put in here, do you do PC gaming, right? Because we asked about consoles.
Right.
PC gaming is another interesting one because I think everybody, I bet you our audience, business audience, maybe a skewing older audience is just really into PC gaming. Yeah. I feel like the really serious people are into PC gaming and having a keyboard as opposed to a console controller. But maybe I'm wrong.
When you think about it now, like, internet access, like internet's gotten faster for a lot of people, even Xfinity, which is evil in a million ways, just keeps making the speeds faster, right? So the streaming, if you have broadband internet access, is a lot more possible than it used to be. TVs can do so much. Like, you can do so much casual game streaming through a television with casting or other technologies. And it does make me wonder if making the investment in a console is still worth it, although we did just buy the new Xbox. So.
Listen, lots of founders are loosey-goosey with their personal phone numbers. They put it on company documents. They use it for sales calls and more. And that makes everything messy. You don't know who's calling, a sales prospect or somebody from your kid's school. Should you pick up? Should you not? Well, OpenPhone helps you create business phone numbers for you and your team. And it's so easy to use. It works through an app on your smartphone or your desktop. So there's no need to carry two phones like I did back in the day, and I kind of still do. There's always a backup. Just pick a number, install the app, and you're done. And here's a feature I love. You know how you can create a shared email for customer support, right? You create support at your domain name. Well, now you can have a shared phone number with multiple employees fielding calls and texts. So you can put on your website or your social media, call us and talk to a sales rep. Call us and talk to customer support or customer success. How amazing is that? And what if you could do it super affordably and easy and control it through a nice web interface? Well, my team is using OpenPhone now for this exact reason. And it's amazing for us to do support for thesyndicate.com as but one example. So here is your call to action. OpenPhone is already super affordable. It's as low as $10 a month for a user. It's basically free when you think about it. So Twist listeners can get an extra 20% off any plan for your first 6 months by signing up at openphone.co/twist. And if you have existing business numbers with another service, well, they can port them over for free. No problem. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So head over to openphone.co/twist today. Okay, great job, OpenPhone. We love the product. Oh, you did buy the new Xbox? Yeah. What do these things go for now? Are they $500 or something?
I wanted Halo. No, I mean the new one whose name I can't even remember. It's like the Xbox X and the X Plus was like $300.
Oh, that's pretty affordable.
Yeah, it was inexpensive. It was enough to be like, let's go to Best Buy and get it. I want Halo.
I bought my wife a new iPhone Max, and I was like, I'm going to get her the largest memory because I do tech support. And,
right.
I would say about
$9,000. Come on, Apple.
$1,500.
Yeah,
I was
insane.
like, what? I was like, I think that I was like, did I put two in the basket by accident? I literally thought for a second, did I put two of them in there or something? And it was $14.99 or $15.99 for the 2 terabyte, or maybe it was 1 terabyte. And because I would say a third of problems when I do tech support are memory, a third are connectivity, and a third are other, like rebooting, memory, whatever errors. So
I'm holding on to my iPhone with my cold, dead hands at this point. Like, I'm not.
How old is yours?
That is absurd. I mean, I'm on the 12. I have the iPhone 12 mini. But I'm like, I'll replace that. I'm to the point now where, I mean, it is not an easy, like an impulse. You're not just going to upgrade because it's about $700 and that's what you paid before, which was already absurd, but at least you're used to paying it. Now I'm like, I'll replace the freaking battery in this thing. I'm calling the Genius Bar because the Bluetooth won't work. Like, it's not a mindless.
I agree with you now. Like, I used to always tell everybody, like, listen, it's $1,000, it's $800. You trade it in, you get half the money back. I would literally get the newest one every year, and I would be like, listen, if it's $900 and I'm getting $400 back, it's $500 a year for a phone. It's $150 a day. I'm on this thing a couple hours a day. It's worth it to have the best one. And I'm in the tech business. I need to be on the best one.
Yep.
I agree. I'm now looking at it going, maybe I get 6 more months out of this, and it's not $4 a day.
Yeah.
Because we're at, like, if you were to get $500 back and it was $1,000 and you replace it every year, it's $3 and change a day, or maybe it's $3 a day. Yep. Still a pretty good deal, but
when it starts to be $1,500, and also you start to consider, like, if you, like me, have started to have a little more awareness of the impact on the environment every time you get rid of a phone. I mean, at least now they're taking them back and they might recycle them, but every time I buy a new one, that's a phone they have to make with cobalt and nickel and rare earth. It's like a lot of materials go into that aren't, like, I don't mean to be environmental buzzkill over here, but those two considerations together have definitely made me pause a lot more.
And you know what? It sounds silly as well, but I'm also like, and these goddamn boxes, like, why, Apple, do I have to get a giant, expensive paper, plastic wrap box? I don't care about the unboxing experience.
Right.
Like, literally, they should just come in a little sleeve that protects it, made out of paper. They should have 50 of them stacked in a tiny box. And forget about these goddamn boxes, everybody.
So true.
I know that Steve Jobs...
If I pick it up, just put it in a paper bag, man.
Yeah, we're done here. Like, just hand it to me. I don't need... My toothpaste is in a tube.
And
I don't need a box around it with plastic around that.
Every single part of it has plastic around it. Every part. Like, come on. I know. I mean, the packaging situation with Apple in particular is like, at this point, like, come on. No.
You know what? And Apple's so full of BS because they're like, oh, and by the way, I'm Tim Cook on the roof of this $6 billion building. We just did something for you. We're not giving you a charger anymore because we know you have one. It's better for the environment. And I'm like, but you're still putting it in a giant freaking box wrapped in plastic inside with layers and like, who wants the manual? Have you ever looked at any of the paperwork in your phone?
No.
Right in the garbage.
They all do the same thing. You transfer over the information. It's an identical phone. Like, come on.
It's so dumb. They should literally. I totally agree. This is a message to Tim Cook.
Mm-hmm.
2 types of ordering. You can order unboxed and you get $10 in credits in the App Store. Boxed, you don't get the $10.
Love it.
Right?
Yep.
Now it's costing you $7. That $7 goes to app developers. Just give me a $10 credit on my phone for some App Store stuff, and we're good.
Yep.
And the same thing is for app. I don't know if you started doing this on Amazon. Did you say you could pick a Prime Day?
You can pick a delivery day, and then you get a credit.
Yes.
Yeah. So that
no. There's that, which is like bundle it, and they'll give you $1 in like digital credits. There's another thing they're doing, which is called Prime Day. You pick what day of the week you want to get a big box from Amazon, and everything you order gets bundled by default into that box. Kind of cool.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, because when I have too many boxes.
Yeah. It's really
so annoying.
I mean, it's really interesting. There's been this rising conversation about the idea of circularity, a circular economy, which is how does stuff go back in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, does it get recycled at the end of life? Is there a way to dispose of it that doesn't make me feel like an asshole as a consumer?
Mm.
And what's driving that obviously is like, sure, money, and packaging is a hugely like cost intensive part of production, but also consumers like us being like, hey, it's crappy customer service if you leave me with a pile of trash that fills up my tiny little California can or that I can't recycle, which is unacceptable. Like, I just think it's so interesting as a consumer proposition for us to be like,
everybody has to do my move. This is my move. This is my little silent protest I've been doing for years. I go to the Apple store.
Yeah.
I buy whatever I'm going to get. I unbox it in the store. I put the entire MacBook detritus there. I unpack my iPhone. I leave it on the counter. And the person's like, oh, you forgot your box. I'm like, no, I didn't. And I'm like, you could throw that away. I don't need it. And I leave it there.
That is so smart.
It is such a power move. Because
everyone
literally,
do this.
They don't know what to do. So here is your protest, everybody.
So good. That's so good.
Every time you go to the Apple store, I want you to unbox everything. And if you bought 6 things, unbox all 6 things because they love that place to be clean. And leave it all over them. Like put it where the watches are. Because that's a beautiful stand. When they have all the watches laid out, just cover everything.
And all that trashy little plastic, just like we're on so good.
The little film, like the film on the camera. I do this literally every time. They look at me like I'm crazy. They're like, okay.
Oh, that's incredible.
So I chose violence.
Yep.
That's my own little social protest.
It's freaking beautiful. Beautiful.
It does work. It literally works.
It's all, look, consumers still have a lot of power, and this is you got to use it every way you can to make this stop. However, I will say that the chat pointed out that there are laws, I believe, maybe not everywhere. I lost this comment because it's going so fast, that say that Josh Galt says it's law that a manual has to accompany an electronic device.
Okay, fair enough.
Fair enough, but it could still be that they get rid of all the other packaging.
They give you the option. I like the option. Would you like frustration-free packaging, or would you like to be frustrated? Or would you like the packaging? So when you go to the store for the most popular items, they should just hand it to you in I love the idea of like a little paper,
nice little
easy
bag.
to rip. You open it up and your unboxing is the experience of like opening up a chocolate bar.
Right.
Make it like opening up the golden ticket chocolate bar.
Yeah. Because Apple can make it pretty. They can come up with a way to make it beautiful and it makes you feel good. Make it that paper that dissolves in water. Like,
Or the sound, the nice crisp sound of ripping, nice parchment paper.
Yes.
That would be so nice, Tim
I love
Cook.
that. Yep.
Hey, we got a startup of the week. The show is This Week in Startups. We talk about all these big companies, but I said to the production team, our producers, get us some startups. So They found a great startup. I am fascinated by this one. Let me tee it up for you, Molly. We have a startup of the day, and we're going to try to do this every day.
Mm-hmm.
We won't succeed, but if we can do it 3 or 4 days a week, that'd be great. So this startup is called Metafy, Metafy. And they do live coaching, not for math, not for race car driving or tennis or golf. We've seen those things before. What they're doing is one-on-one live coaching for video games, which I need because, I am trying to get better at some of these new games, and I don't want to play Fortnite and then with one of my nephews or nieces or something get demolished.
Mm-hmm.
I would pay $50, $25 an hour to have somebody just level me up very quickly. So they connect gaming coaches to those who want to learn how to get better with games like StarCraft all the way to sports betting, which is super cool. I am going to get StarCraft 2 coaching. I am signing up for this. And I can't wait because I only play Protoss. I don't play any of the other ones. I don't read the manual. I just have a good time. Mm-hmm. And I stay in the Silver League and I'm happy. But they make money by charging students a 5% fee, not by taking a cut of the coach's income, which is kind of nice.
Interesting. Well, and also that incentivizes, they're talking about getting coaching from pro gamers. So there's that benefit too, which is like you can sign up to literally see the person that you watch in an esports tournament maybe coach you. That's a big deal in, certain communities who are really, really, really into gaming and literally know the names of esports players, which, I shouldn't laugh. I mean, a lot of us know the name of, we all know Ninja. Like there's some that everybody knows. Dream. Before I get to this actual startup though, this made me think of another reason why you would want to do this and why PC gaming, I think, has been on the rise, and that is streaming. So everybody wants to be Twitch streaming, and it's so much easier on a PC than it is on a console. And so I think that has probably also driven people to PC gaming and also would drive them to want to do this because when you're streaming, if you're streaming onto YouTube or you're streaming onto Twitch, you do not want to get killed over and over and over.
Don't be a Jerry. They will destroy you. We all know how hard it is to eat healthy when you're working crazy hours. But thankfully, Real Good Foods is working hard to help. They make nutritious foods more accessible to improve your health. And they're one of the fastest growing frozen food brands in the US. I've tried their foods. They're amazing, delicious, really well done. In fact, they just went public back in November under the ticker symbol RGF. So congrats to the team over there on their IPO. And they make all the foods you love. Italian entrees, pizza, Mexican breakfast sandwiches. I've had the pizza. Very good. All 100% grain-free, low in carbs, and high in protein. You know that whole thing that makes you lose a little bit of weight and a little bit healthier. I'm doing it. It's working. And it's all made from real food ingredients. Real Good Foods is perfect if you're trying to cut back on those carbs like I am, or get more protein from real food, which I'm also trying to do. Maybe you're just trying to eat healthy in general, and this is a great option as opposed to maybe, ordering something in that's not as good for you. So they are now available in the freezer sections at Costco, Walmart, Target, and most grocery stores nationwide. And a big goal of theirs is to support food banks across the U.S. by donating 1 million nutritious meals. So here's a call to action for you. Go to RealGoodFoods.com and use the code TWIST for $15 off. Learn more about Real Good Foods at RealGoodFoods.com and follow them on social, Real Good Foods, at Real Good Foods. Great job, Real Good Foods. Really enjoyed the product. This is a very significant raise. They're calling it a Series A, $25 million. It was led by Tiger Global. So that means I would put the value of this company at $125 million after the $25 million was put in. So this is my guess. I don't know the valuation. But if it's a Series A, the investors probably want to own 20%. So 25 million, 20%, would be $125 million total value. So 100 pre. Company's worth 100 million. You put the 25 million in. Now the company has 25 million in their bank account. The value of the company, 100. The value of the $25 million, still $25 million. $125 million is what I'm going to guess. Alexis Ohanian, a friend of the pod, co-founder of Reddit, co-founder of Initialized Capital, who now has his own firm called 776, was also, I guess, leading the round with Tiger, according to our notes. A lot of angel investors in there, like our friend Naval from AngelList, Steve Galanis from Cameo, who's been on the pod. They're putting $1 million toward a fund that will invest over the next 24 months into tournaments and stuff like that. So that's great. Josh Fabian is the founder. And here's a quote from Crunchbase. I guess Crunchbase now competes with TechCrunch to cover startups. It's kind of funny. They spun Crunchbase out of TechCrunch. I've been pretty honest about how I feel about venture capital, and generally it's not good. Tiger gives me access to capital, and they stay the bleep out of my way. So I guess this is part of the whole anti-venture capital, which is kind of silly, to be honest. Like, venture capitalists are overwhelmingly supportive and awesome. And so, for the bad behavior by venture capitalists or the annoying behavior of venture capitalists is like less than 10%. I would argue, actually, since I've been on both sides of the table, that I would say bad behavior by founders, slightly more than bad behavior by venture capitalists.
Yeah.
On a percentage basis.
I mean, it seems to me I could understand why in a hot market, a super competitive market where you're like, I can raise money this way or that way or a DAO or this or that like there's increasing, it seems to me that there's increasing resentment about the idea of the ownership, right? Taking ownership in the company, which okay. When the market crashes and there's no other way to make money, like to me, this
peak market
sentiment
behavior.
Is a side effect of and also the idea that startup founders feel like they have been pushed to make business decisions that they might not have otherwise made, so that the venture capitalists can get these big returns.
Yes, these are all true statements, and the year of end.
Word of the year, 2022.
But here's the thing. You're absolutely right. This is peak market behavior. When people either don't, raise at high levels, are negging venture capitalists, or generally blowing through money, like drunken sailors, it's a peak market. And, this kind of entitlement, in Josh's statement here, I'm not saying he's an entitled person, but it's a little obnoxious as a comment. And it sounds a little entitled. It's kind of a bad look. If he needs money, it's, he's certainly going to go to venture capitalists to get it. Like if the company needed to get a bridge or something. But here's the truth. If you really don't like venture capitalists and you don't like going fast and you like going slow and methodical, build off revenue. Yeah. Build a bootstrap business. That is an option. Yeah. Our friend Alex, who had a really good appearance last week. Alex is great. At Alex.
Ramen.
Yeah. He tweeted, Metafy raised $25 million. Cool company. Would have loved it when I was less okay with being terrible at games. Yeah, that is true. It makes childhood me happy that games are no longer this thing that only we nerds do, but something that everyone can enjoy. Well, 100% agree.
I think that's totally true. And also, I would say, I think there's a bigger business story here, too, that we shouldn't forget. Like, this isn't just about making people able to have more fun when they're playing games. Like, let's go back to the part where this company is also going to put this capital to invest into competitive tournaments and other gaming community events. This is about creating future creators, right? It's about growing the entire streaming gaming ecosystem. Yeah. So that these people who are learning how to play games better from pros can become pros, or at least start making money off of. And that is what, like, if I were looking at this, I'd be like, well, that's cool. You can learn how to be a better gamer, but like, how are you going to make $1 billion? See, I'm learning.
There you go.
The way you make $1 billion is that you start to create a bigger and bigger and bigger gaming ecosystem, so that more people want to do this. You grow the pie. But this is actually fundamentally a gaming and a creator economy story, I think.
Absolutely. Yes. That is the dream for a lot of young folks. They want to be YouTubers. They want to be Mr. Beast, or they want to be Ninja. They want to be able to make money off of this. And let's face it, even if you make but, $3,000 or $4,000 a month, it's enough if you are living not in a major city to sustainably live by playing games. Yeah. And, when we talk about, what are people going to do for a living? The fact that there are so many streamers, or people on Cameo, or people on YouTube, or people doing podcasts that are making enough money to survive. It's almost like the Medici family, in Florence. Like, we have this new Medici kind of effect where people are able to do art, be able to pursue their passion, whether it's a podcast or being, a TikTok entertainer, a comedian, somebody who does impersonations, somebody who does video games and streaming. And you can kind of make enough to exist as that artist. And that's pretty cool, isn't it?
That actually is such a nice way to put it. Like, it really, we're like, there are patrons. I mean, that's the idea that Patreon is built on. Yes. But also, there are patrons that come in all kinds of different forms. And it's I mean, you look at like China actually has perfected and really advanced this kind of digital creator economy with purchasing digital goods, giving gifts, tipping creators and live streamers. And I do think that it is just becoming bigger and bigger. And it is kind of a nice way to look at it that like, there are lots of ways for you to have a job that might not have traditionally been considered a job. And these streamers aren't just in some cases making a pretty good living. Like they're making a lot. Remember when there was the Twitch hack and all of the salaries were leaked? Like the amounts that streamers were making
six figures. Like they're making more than they would if they had a law degree.
Several are making, I'd say at least 10 or 15 are making 7 figures.
Yeah. I mean, so put even just taking those out, you start to have this like, how they talk about the long tail?
Yeah.
I think there's like this fat middle that's emerging, right? And the fat middle is like, I don't need to get a job. And the long tail is I have spending money, and the top fat part of the tail, the top of the tail is people who are like, millionaires. But I just think that we're increasingly making this middle part that is, I have enough money to live doing this. It's pretty freaking compelling, I have to say.
It is really. And also, next time you're on a podcast where someone is talking about how people just don't want to work anymore, the fact is people have a lot of options to work in a lot of better ways that are very fulfilling. I mean, the comparison to I think it's the Medicis in Italy, but that comparison is really apt, right? If you can do this as opposed to getting yelled at in a restaurant behind a counter or driving a truck, you're going to do this. And increasingly that's going to be an option, but it's not going to show up in the jobs report. It's not going to show up as employment.
I don't think OnlyFans is showing up in the jobs report or Twitch streamers, right? Putting all judgments aside of how you feel about adult workers or whatever. But if you just look at it, you're right that those don't show up. And, these folks could also maybe do DoorDash 2 days a week and make some money from that and do streaming for 3 days a week.
Yep.
All of these put pressure on the people who have arduous jobs to pay a fair price for the pain of having to pack boxes at an Amazon warehouse every day. Or like you're saying, having a bad boss. And that's good for the economy. We have an investment in a company. I'll just give a shout out to them, Blayze, BLAYZE.io. We can pull it up on the screen. And they're doing one-on-one coaching, not for video games, but this will blow your mind. They have coaches now across soccer, basketball, karting, motorcycle, car racing, all these different things. And what's great about it is, when I met the founder, car racing is extremely expensive. Car racing is like, $5,000 to have somebody go out with you for the weekend and make you better at it. But you can videotape, you're videotaping your car racing anyway. They can give you tips for, $200, and they can draw on the video, and you kind of get it like email, asynchronously.
Yep.
And the person who's the coach doesn't have to drive to your, racetrack, spend a week with you. So there's kind of like, this is happening all over the place.
I mean, I just think that we're like right now, our society is like Neo in the Matrix, right? Like we're so close to being, because if you need to know something at this point, that thing is on YouTube or that thing 100%. Is on a coaching app. Like we're all just, we talk about the future of work, and I think actually that our startup of the day, Metafy, that's an investment in the future of work, even though it sounds like a video game startup.
Yeah.
But the future of education is what we should really be talking about, because like, what are you going to learn at school at this point when you can practically jack into the back of your head?
I know Kung Fu. Yeah. It literally is like that. Anytime I have a problem with a device, I don't even, like when I was just unpacking a humidifier because it's up in the mountains and it's dry air. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try to set this up just, by looking at it. Mm-hmm. And then I was just like, I typed the name of the company, set up on YouTube. Boom, there's a video. I go to that video, I put it on 2x speed, because you can do that now on YouTube. And I just watch this person set it up while I set it up. I didn't even look at the manual. And then you have a problem with your dishwasher or whatever device it is, you just type it into YouTube. Somebody has made a video where they were frustrated by something, spent 2 hours, figured it out, and then they shared it in 90 seconds. And now you're done. It's so great.
Totally. And that's, just the how-to category on YouTube, like the idea. My boyfriend built me this studio that you see right now, had never built a thing. Built an entire room, like electrical, got some help with drywall, and now is like, I'm going to build a sauna. I'm like, okay.
Okie dokie.
there will be 10 to 20,000 videos on YouTube that are, or 200,000 videos on how to build Asana. So I find it all so fascinating in terms of creating options. Somebody in the chat was like, UBI incoming. Why would it? Why would it have to come? You can now make a job out of any freaking thing on the internet. It's amazing.
Find your passion. Yeah. UBI is like, we had a giant, listen, I don't have a problem with, people who are having a tough time getting unemployment or whatever. What I would say about UBI is we had an experiment for the last 2 years in some cases that was UBI-esque or adjacent.
Right.
And what happens when money drops from the sky and people have nothing to do? Like, things get weird. They start buying NFTs, or people start buying drugs and overdose, or, people need to have meaning and purpose in life. And that's the problem I have with UBI is, okay, what's your purpose? Why do you get out of bed? And not everybody, but we all have people in our lives who, maybe they had a trust fund or something, or they had like money gifted to them. Are they happy in life? Do they have purpose? Do they wake up every day and are they happy? Maybe not, maybe not.
I didn't really mean to start a UBI conversation. I think that's sort of true. I think there are people who won't want to. I think we probably need a baseline of support. What we did see also during the pandemic in our great UBI experiment is like child hunger in the United States was cut in half, right?
Yes, that was great.
I mean, so there were some really true, and people were like, wow, I'm able to pay my rent. And because I have a baseline of support that keeps me in my house, I can get a job. Where previously I was too unstable to get a job. So like there's pros and cons, obviously. But I guess what I mean to say is that it has always been the way of America and humans to create more work, right?
Yes,
like,
of course.
So we have this big freak out about, which is, we're like, what's going to happen when robots take jobs? Exactly. And AI takes jobs and whatever. And it's like, people are going to make money playing video games. You could argue about the pros and cons of that for sure. But people are finding like the river finds a way.
Exactly. And like, but one example, I'm a big Knickerbocker fan. I love my Knicks. And my friend CP, the franchise, created Knicks Fan TV on YouTube after every game. And then once a week, and when there's breaking news, he talks about the Knicks. And, he has a community just like we do here on YouTube. And I've met all these friends, and they have this like super chat feature. We don't turn it on here because we have advertising. We don't need the money, but where you can double click and people give him super chats while he's talking, and he reads the super chats for $5. But when the Knicks win, I'm so happy that he does this. Probably 20 times a year, I give him $50 or $100. Now, like, I'm giving him $1,000 probably a year. And I look at it as I'm a patron. If I went to dinner, that would be what this would cost me. And I'm getting as much entertainment as going out to dinner. I just want to see him keep going, right? And there's other people like Chuck D, the famous rapper, musician. He gives $25, $50, every other game. And we're just trying to keep this guy doing it, right? And hopefully he'll be able to quit his job. And then we have this incredible Knicks show that we get to watch.
Yep.
And there's got to be another 20 or 30 fans who put up $2 to $20 tips as well. So I got to think he's making maybe $500 to $1,000 every episode with 80 games a year. Okay, maybe we're getting there. Maybe we're getting to 40 grand or 60 grand, which is, I don't know, enough for somebody to quit their job, but getting close.
Yeah. Monetize your interests, everybody.
Okay.
All right, I have a founder meeting coming up, so let's keep talking tech news.
Yeah.
The latest, this is just sort of interesting and also a very 2022 sentence. Coinbase added Shopify CEO Tobi Lutke to its board, which is interesting for lots of reasons. Coinbase founder and CEO Brian Armstrong announced the appointment, saying Tobi's experience as a founder and CEO, scaling his business from a small niche online marketplace into what has become a critical backbone of global e-commerce, will help guide Coinbase as we seek to bring crypto to more people and businesses around the world.
That's great. We have seen this before. Zuckerberg, had Mark Andreessen famously on the board, who is a founder who turned into a venture capitalist. Peter Thiel on the board, founder, of PayPal, who turned into a venture capitalist. And then he also added the DoorDash CEO, I think, to the board, Tony. And I think he already had the Dropbox. Did he have Dropbox CEO Drew Houston on the board? So anyway, if you're the founder of a company and you want to have like really good discussions around your board, like capital allocators are great. Capital allocators are previously founders, have both. And then people who are at scale, it's pretty great. The one thing I will say about this is it's going to be a lot more men on boards.
I was a lot of white men. You said it. I was like, do they have any ladies on that board? But probably not. Well, Brian's reputation is.
Here's the thing: if you look at diversity, let's just take gender as one portion. In Silicon Valley, it's gotten a lot better over the last 10 years. Everybody would agree. The number of companies being led by women has just exploded. That being said, there is a trailer here, which is if you're only going to pick people who've been on public boards or whatever, there's a trailing 10-year, 20-year lag, just like there are for venture funds. Mm-hmm. So I always encourage people when they're looking at diversity statistics, you have to look at the number and the percentage of people who've been funded recently, not just the dollar amounts, right? Because the dollar amounts are trailing indicators, right? That's which companies survive, which means which companies are 10 plus years old. And so, in this case, I think if you're only going to pick CEOs of successful public companies, it's going to look like 2005 to 2010 or earlier. So you're not going to have as much diversity.
I think the other aspect of this that I find interesting is that, I waded into this once on Twitter. I don't think we've had a full-fledged conversation about crypto targeting men so specifically as its primary audience and demographic, right? Not even targeting, but like crypto, it's basically.
Are they targeting it, or is it just turned out that way because they were like this underground incel
that a lot of like
group.
Dudes are into it, right? I mean, there's the crypto bro concept. And then there was a Twitter thread that I jumped in on that was basically like everybody I'm talking to in the crypto space is is heavily targeting sports marketing, which is code for looking for men, right? Like I'm a huge sports fan and also a longtime business journalist. And if you say that you're going to sports marketing, like this was around the time of the crypto.com arena name change.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like there's clearly a target demo here that is well-defined, but potentially
figured it out.
Limiting. It's limiting.
I think it might not be as nefarious as you think.
I don't think it's nefarious at all.
Oh, okay. I think it's horribly... Actually, now that I realize it is horribly nefarious, you know what's happening?
What?
Crypto is more analogous to gambling than it is to startup investing or investing in stocks, right? So if that's the case, who bets on sports? That's overwhelmingly a male behavior. For whatever reason, maybe women are too smart to waste money. Maybe they think about the long-term consequences of things. I don't know the, Darwinian nature of why men are so apt to gamble versus women, but that's what this indicates to me in terms of why crypto is so appealing to men, or why they might be doubling down and advertising to men.
Right. And then you do start to get, without a doubt, right? Then you start to get a population, like you start to get behaviors.
Bros.
I would say that like at this point, 7 out of the 10 rando trolls who show up have .eth as their display name. Like
it's
you start to get
toxic in pockets. There are toxicity pockets.
It can be incredibly toxic. There's no doubt. And so then you have this like kind of crypto bro culture, and it gets perpetuated. And the more like dudes you add to your board, the more you continue to perpetuate that culture. And listen, I'm not so much complaining about the culture as I am pointing out that as a business strategy, it's limiting, right? There's only, if you can't grow beyond a certain population, when you are claiming that you're going to decentralize and revolutionize finance, like it's a narrow lane.
There was at that famous Bitcoin conference in 2021, there was a dude, and let me say, that whole conference was dudes on stage. I mean, it might have been literally like 97% dudes based on what I saw. Somebody could fact check me on that one. But they have this concept of being a Bitcoin maximalist. And then they have a subset of that, which is a smaller subset for sure, which is Bitcoin toxicity. And what that doctrine states, and it is a doctrine, and this guy, Nick ZM, kind of explained it. And he explained toxic maximalism is important for the survival of Bitcoin, that you have to attack anybody who attacked Bitcoin.
Yes.
And that is like really gross. And that's why they create all of these anonymous accounts that are under a year old, that have no followers, but that follow 100 people, who will reply to you if you say anything negative about Bitcoin. The explicit strategy in this group of people is to reply to you and say, have fun being poor, okay, boomer, whatever.
100%.
Or attack your physical look like they did for me. This is before I lost the weight. It was, they're like, you're fat, you're old, you're dumb. Have fun being poor. And I'm like, I'm not poor. I own over $1 million worth of Bitcoins. I'm just saying, like, there could be another technology that would be better than Bitcoin. And like, when I took that position, which is a really strong position, like, all technology gets replaced with better technology.
Yeah.
Bitcoin will be replaced at some point. There's a 100% chance of that with a better technology. The bet you're making is when that happens. Is that going to happen in 5 years or 15 years? But it's between those two numbers in my mind.
Ethereum, yeah.
It's between those two numbers, right? Like, pick a technology. Like, almost all of them get replaced.
Or commodified.
Within 5 to 15 years.
Yep.
With very rare exceptions, And so, anyway, I agree with you. It's pretty toxic. But all that being said, back
Not
to this
take
story.
anything away from Toby.
No, I don't think either of these guys are toxic. Right. I actually, we never talked about the Coinbase. Don't bring your.
I wasn't here then.
You weren't here back then, but that would have been an explosive discussion because I was kind of like, I kind of agree that, like, for startups, kind of important that they don't take on every single issue. And Coinbase has objectively done much better since they said, do not bring social issues to work as a business. Now, is that good for society or not? That's a whole nother story. But, I know it's hard. I'm not saying I love the fact that Brian did not apologize, double down, and just said, listen, don't work here. And it's kind of worked well. If you actually care about social justice issues, like, don't go work there. He doesn't want to talk about it.
Right. He created a filter, for sure.
Created a filter.
Right? He set the tone of the culture and gave the employees an option to leave. And they were in a market where people had plenty of options. So, like,
and he gave them huge severance. That was the power move.
You do you. You're the CEO of a private company. You can absolutely do that 100%. To me, that is exactly, though, the kind of, it just raises the same question for me, which is, do you want your audience to get bigger or not? Do you want your customer base to get bigger? Do you want maximum hiring options? And do you want maximum customer possibility or not? And so
the answer is no.
The answer is no.
The answer is a hard no. Like, we want people to work here who care, who are obsessed with the global financial system, and that's it. And that's what he said. Yeah. And like, so if you care about those things, like, this is not the guy to work for.
Yeah. I mean, props for being honest, man. Love it.
I think
like, don't make people guess. Don't make people guess. I only have 5 minutes and I do not want to cut this short because this story is amazing.
That's such a good story. We'll do that.
Let's just tease ahead.
All right. Here's what happened. It was 2010. Twitter was a new thing. The iPad was coming out. Everybody knew it was coming out. I had a 2-month-old, in the room next door. And it was like 2 a.m. and, I was changing diapers or whatever in LA. I was sitting there in bed with my wife and I was on this Twitter thing. And I was like, I'm going to tell everybody that I have the iPad that's coming out tomorrow at this keynote, because everybody knew it was coming out at the keynote. That much had leaked. And I proceeded to describe the iPad that Steve Jobs had given me under NDA, and that at midnight, the NDA ended so I could talk about it. Because they had, I think I said, like, they made a mistake on the NDA. They put the 26th or whatever. And I described a product that could not possibly exist in 2010, which is, it had 2 cameras on it. The battery lasted like 3 days. It was powered by solar power, all of them connected together in a mesh network to create a free internet access for everybody globally. And that it had a DVR that could store like 100 hours. And it had an AI assistant. You could talk to it. This is long before Siri.
This is amazing.
And I came out with the most ridiculous tech specs that would have drained a battery in 2010 in 15 minutes. And that had an HD tuner in it, so and it recorded like every anyway, it was like a crazy spec. And like, I just thought it was so obvious that this was a joke. Especially because I said it had fingerprint security on it, which didn't exist at the time. And that it had essentially like thumb pads on it, where it was like Nintendo Wii-like, and you could play Farmville. And I was playing Farmville over it, and the farms would go over 3 or 4 iPads, and you could build a You could put 4 iPads together and make a giant farm, and it would do it at the bezel and whatever. I just came up with the most absurd specs, and then I fell asleep.
And
my wife goes, do you think you should really do that? You might piss off Steve Jobs.
Your phone is on fire, and I'm not sure why. Pew, 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 pew.
I woke up in the morning, I kid you not, with 100 phone calls and text messages and insanity, and we will tell that story on tomorrow's show.
See you then.
Bye-bye.
Stick around.
Stick around. It's insane.
Hey guys, Rachel reporting here. On February 14th and 15th, we'll be hosting Founder University Intensive. This is a 2-day program for founders. Now, this course is only open to women founders.
We'll be hosting a course open to everyone on May 9th and 10th. You can apply for both at founder.university.
And applications for the longer 12-week Founder University program are due on February 14th, and you can also apply for those at founder.university.
Follow Jason and Molly on Twitter @Jason and @MollyWood.
If you're not a boomer and prefer TikTok, search for This Week in Startups to find the fan account @this_week_in_startups.
And our official account @TWI Startups. But honestly, the fan account is way better than ours.
And if you're still not tired of hearing from Jason 6 days a week,
you can hear him read his book Angel at angelthebook.com/audible.